Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Hey, Bartlett, just give me a da-bump-bump-bump, da-bump-bump.
Oh, my God. Joe Gimateo.
Thank you, Jason. This is everybody's favorite podcast, but it's also Minnie Pearl's favorite podcast, Wrasslin Raw.
Yeah. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one pay-per-view at a time. That's right, folks. This is a special pay-per-view episode, so just a quick reminder on the pay-per-view rules. We're not going to have a jobber of the week because technically there are no jobbers here. We're going to give our personal star ratings for the matches, and Joe is going to hit us with what Dave Meltzer thought about these matches in the Wrestling Observer. Once we're done, we'll give our final opinions on the pay-per-view overall, and Joe will hit us with his usual contemporary news. So, all that being said, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about In Your House 2. This pay-per-view was aired on July 23rd, 1995, and recorded at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready to get this started.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. So just first, real quick, show of hands, guys. Who's fresh on this? Who's going into this fresh? Never saw it before.
I don't remember seeing it.
Completely raw.
Same here. This was a first time watching this for me, so good to know going in. Immediately, question, what the fuck is going on with this intro?
Oh, yeah, it was bad.
The country music intro for In Your House 2 was absolutely bananas. It was a shit-kicking country music insult to Nashville, Tennessee, in the best possible way that this pay-per-view could have started.
We get to see it again at the end of it, the pay-per-view as well.
Well, you gotta, whenever you spend that kind of money, you gotta make sure you get your money's worth.
That's right.
Equally concerning here was the cartoon intro for In Your House, in which the In Your House logo knocks on a cartoon house's door, and when nobody answers, it decides to just break the fuck in through the window. That's the kind of message we're sending out to the kids. Vince is putting over Nashville in a big way. It is the city of dreams, dreams that can raise the human spirit or crush a man's soul. We finally get a view of Vince and Lawler, and they are Kmart Cowboys tonight, boy. Good Lord.
Lawler is the definition of a rhinestone cowboy.
Yeah.
He's got the crown on top of the cowboy hat.
We thought the smoking guns looked bad. These two were just, shameless. Well, we're not going to fuck around anymore, though, because the sound of a 3 count hits the PA, and we're going into our first match of the night. The Roadie defeats the 1-2-3 Kid by pinfall in 7 minutes and 26 seconds. I absolutely loved the aggression of the 1-2-3 Kid to start the match. It was great seeing the Kid work it. Unfortunately, once or twice the Roadie's timing was off a little bit on things, or maybe the Kid needed to slow down, but either way, there were a couple stutter steps in the beginning. The leaping kick from the Kid onto the Roadie at the outside was impressive, as were the kicks in the corner. Always good to see the Kid working the kicks. I loved the little aside that we got showing Double J in the backpack, the locker room, getting ready to sing and not giving a shit about the Roadie's match at all. It really highlighted the relationship there. Good storytelling, I thought. And holy shit, the elevation that the 1-2-3 Kid gets when the Roadie reverses the Kid and launches him in the air to pancake on the mat. Fantastic to see. The Kid's rally and that roundhouse kick was amazing. And my personal favorite that had me popping my ass off, coming day and night, the 5-star frog splash from the Kid onto the Roadie. One of my favorite moves of all time. But then when the Roadie reverses the Kid into a sit-down powerbomb, I popped my ass off even harder. It was so tight. It was perfect. This was all great. This was a great match until we got to the finish. The Roadie hits the Kid, who, keep in mind, just had neck surgery, with a pile driver from the second rope. And that looked shaky as hell. I cringed seeing that. It just, ugh. The Roadie celebrating and dancing on his way out was just fantastic. The Roadie walks up on stage, gives us a mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. And that is the end of this segment. All in all, I felt this was an excellent match. Once again, the 1, 2, 3 Kid delivers, as per usual. And the Roadie continues to show himself as a natural in this environment. Up until that finish, I was pretty damn high on this, but the way that pile driver landed just reminded me of the other shaky, a little bit dangerous spots that we had throughout the match. It wasn't like there was a ton of them, but there were 3 or 4 spots where they could have just done without it. Because of those shaky spots, I'm going to give this match a solid 3 stars. I was up to 4 before, but whenever we take risks like this for no reason, especially with somebody as good as the Kid that just had a sensitive surgery, none of that was needed, so that bumped it down to 3. Joe, what did you think about our opener here?
Yeah, this is really strange, but I can't say anything different than you just said for anything. All my notes are exactly what you just said.
Wow.
But I'll add this. When you talk about the Kid getting height on that one move, it was like a back body drop or something like that. It's like, maybe it's because of today's wrestling, but the Kid's size is never a factor. And that's something to be said, because we're still in the time period of Vince loving the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
The Kid it's never, like, I never think, oh, this guy's just a little small pipsqueak, He's a legit wrestler, and this was a great match until the finish, like you said. That was just ugly. And I am also giving this 3 stars.
Yeah, we're all kind of on the same page with this match. We got our DX preview here. X-Pac and the Road Dogg in the ring together, and complete agreement. I just loved the Kid at the beginning. Even though he started off, it was almost heelish, the way he ran up the ramp and attacked the Roadie before the match even started and then threw him into the ring to start it. But it worked. And yeah, at the beginning, it seemed like he had a little bit of ring rust. I don't know if it was the Roadie maybe not up to speed with him or whatever, but they're leapfrogging back and forth and it looks okay. And then the Kid, it looks like his foot kind of caught the Road Dogg leg as he tried to roll under it, and Vince tries to cover it with, oh, he caught him right in the mush. And it's like, no, he didn't. What are you talking about? So sometimes Vince likes to try and cover for people's botches, and he makes it worse, almost highlights it with his shitty cover up. Just shut up and move on,
Yeah.
But that ring rust wore off really quick. Couple seconds later, after those back-to-back botch moves, the Kid redeems himself with that slingshot over the top rope with that straight kick right to the face of the Road. I mean, it looked fantastic. It was just such a great hit. And that little spot, we talk about storytelling in these matches, right around the middle when they show Double J backstage, not even paying attention, The little camera's there and he's just fixing his hat, his back turned to it. I wonder what might happen later on. Even once the Roadie took over, and he just threw him, it looked like 15 feet in the sky, and he just belly flops, and then 2 seconds later, he reverses it and throws him up, and he flops on his back. This was a great match. Just the back and forth, and their styles worked with each other. Unfortunately, the finisher, that pile driver off the second rope that the Roadie doesn't execute very well on a just freshly injured Kid, is kind of a head scratcher. But I loved the Roadie has his own modified Double J strut that he does now. That's pretty great. It seems like we were all watching the same match here, because I was leaning towards a 4-star, even with the ring rust, but with the sloppy finish, I had to give it a solid 3-star.
Yeah, it is not surprising that we all landed the same on this one, because the times that we differ on matches, it's usually nitpicky stuff. It's usually matters of personal taste. I can't see how anybody could argue with the skill going on in this match, especially from somebody as green as the Roadie here and with the 1-2-3 Kid. This is a phenomenal match, all botches and bad, dangerous moves aside. It did earn its solid 3 from us, apparently all 3 of us. It got a threesome out of us, so that's good. Joe, what did Meltzer have to say about it?
So Meltzer said that the Roadie used a pile driver off the middle rope to score the pin, which looked to be a risky bump for someone to take who has just come off a career-threatening neck injury. He did say the match was damn good and would have been even better had they been given a little more time, and he gives it 3.25 stars. So pretty much on point with us.
Okay.
Yeah, the squeak in that fucking quarter.
Yeah, because that matters.
Yep.
Thank you, Joseph. We're going to move it along here now to backstage in the Corporation Lumberjack locker room. Todd Pettingzoo is there with Kama, Sid, Tatanka, DiBiase, IRS, and King Kong Bundy. Where the fuck did he come from? Surprisingly, Tatanka cuts a pretty good promo here, saying, "Welcome to the asylum. I was not turned off by this in the least bit." I mean, it wasn't genius work or anything, but especially compared to Sid. Sid unfortunately drops his usual master and ruler of the world lines.
He's really settled on that one.
You know, what better time to get a little original for the pay-per-view? You know, we could have had master and ruler of the world all those times, but save up a Guatemala, the greatest lion of Africa and ever, for the pay-per-view, you know? Sid was a little disappointing here, have to say it. Speaking of disappointing, let's kick it now to the mayor of Merchville, Barry fucking Dudensky. Barry looks terribly out of place here in the babyface lumberjack locker room, and it's even more awkward with Barry trying to hawk these event shirts while there's a party going on behind him. It really did fall flat. I couldn't even pay attention to what was on the shirt because there was so much shit going on in the background that was infinitely more interesting than Barry fucking Dudensky. When we get out of that, the house band is tuning up and playing a hard rock string quartet mashup. I had no idea what that was. It was kind of weird hearing them play that. But then we get the bass drop to take us into our next match. Men on a Mission. Womp, 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 womp. King Mabel and Sir Mo defeats Razor Ramon and Savio Vega by pinfall in 10 minutes and 9 seconds. Yeah. Positives. I love the hip-hop bass track, combined with Mabel behaving like a king, bowing and expecting Sir Mo to do shit for him. It's unfortunate that their wrestling sucks, because they're really embracing this whole royal heel gimmick. And this is the kind of gimmick I can get behind. You know, they earned the crown, well, quote-unquote earned the crown through the King of the Ring tournament. So King Mabel can be a thing in my eyes, and the whole thing works. It's just that they fucking suck in the ring. And I also have to admit that I was a little sad to see Savio Vega come out to someone else's music and be in this tag team situation. Savio has really elevated himself in terms of respect and appreciation with me. And even though it's Razor Ramon, I love Razor, I don't like seeing Savio here stuck in this situation. I popped my ass off for Razor throwing the rib wrap at Mabel's face. That was fun. And I loved the opening exchange. This was the shove, the toothpick throw, the open-handed slap. It was a great way to get me going on this. And then there are immediately botches from Mo. Mo is pretty good at selling some of this stuff, but he doesn't seem to be communicating for shit with his opponents because there are just too many stutter steps going on. I thought it was hilarious when the King called Savio Chevy Vega. My mom used to drive a Chevy Vega. It was pretty funny. I continue to be a fan of Savio Vega throughout this. God damn it. He is working hard to make Mabel and Mo look good. It is an uphill battle, but Savio is doing his damnedest. And really, you know, Mabel isn't too bad with some of the power moves. The elevated suplex on Savio Vega was moderately impressive. And there came a point where we had spent entirely too much time in the ring beating the shit out of Savio Vega. But like right as I was typing that note, we finally get the hot tag to Razor from Savio. Razor honestly looked like he was having a hard time working with Mo. Mo was a little too chunky for Razor. Razor couldn't quite lift him enough. Maybe that was some lingering rib pain or something like that. But in the end, we get just Razor and Mabel in the ring, and it's really obvious how much slower than Razor Mabel is. I do like the vocal selling that Mabel does, roaring while he does his moves. But in the end, he's still Mabel, and they get the anticlimactic 3 count while Savio and Mo are just standing around out at ringside. Or no, I take that back. They took a knee at ringside, but rather than do a run-in, they're just going to keep the knee. This match wasn't terrible. Unfortunately, that's all I can really say about it. We had 2 fantastic singles stuck together as a tag team against a poor tag team. There was 0 heat going in, 0 heat during, 0 heat coming out. If anything, this was the beginning of a burial of Savio Vega, taking away that momentum he had built. And all of that into consideration, I'm giving this match 1 star. Ryan, what did you think?
So to start the match off, I'm right there with you. When I saw Razor coming down with the bandages on his ribs, and he got me, when he threw them into the face, I loved it. I popped my ass off for that. But sadly, that's going to be probably the best part of this match. Razor, of course, he starts off with Mo, and he doesn't look too bad. He struggles a bit in that crossbody that he caught Mo in, but he didn't let him drop. He balanced himself, and he did his little over-the-head throw that he does. That can't be said the same for Mo, though, because Razor, a couple minutes later, tags in Savio, and Savio makes a beeline for Mo, and it looks like he's supposed to catch Savio, but he fails. He just kind of botches the catch and drops him to his feet and looks like the shitty tag team that Men on a Mission is. Like you said, when Mabel came in, he actually nails a couple okay-looking power moves, but then he goes back to that enziguri. He tries to hit it again, and it looks terrible every time. He botches it every time, but he always tries it every match like it's some impressive move that he does. I don't know why he does it. This match could have been a lot worse than it was. The finish wasn't great either. It was an ugly reversal, this Irish whip that Mabel puts on Razor, and then he slams him for the 3 count. But when it basically came down to it, though, was I can't believe that Razor and Savio had the job for Men on a Mission.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. I wanted to give it a dud because of the job, but the wrestling it was good enough that I wouldn't feel right actually giving it a dud. So I'm with you, Bartlett. I gave it a 1 star.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that Razor Ramon is probably my favorite wrestler of this era. So, I mean, my opinions might be a little biased, but as far as the entrance goes, Bartlett, you mentioned Savio not getting his own, and I enjoy Savio's entrances, but with this one, I was a little worried because I have a hard-on for Razor Ramon's entrances. And I was thinking, man, I'm probably going to hate this, like with him and Savio, but I thought it was good. I thought that them coming out together to Razor's music, I thought was good. As far as the match, Sir Mo.
Yes. Don't forget the Sir.
Just does not deserve to be in the same ring as Savio Vega and Razor Ramon. He shouldn't be there.
Let alone fucking beat.
Attempting a moonsault was awful. We've seen, this podcast prides itself on giving jobbers the respect they deserve. And I can tell you at least 50% of the jobbers that we've seen in the last 2 years of wrestling, 93 to 95 have been better than Sir Mo.
Or Mabel.
Yeah. Yeah, the jobber of the week is Sir Mo. Take it, Ryan.
There's no info about him. He had no career outside of this stint as Man on a Mission.
You guys mentioned about popping your ass off a couple times. Did you happen to see when Razor gave the signal for the Razor's Edge, there was a kid up front that just absolutely lost his shit?
No, I did not.
Wanted to see Mo take that Razor's Edge.
One more time.
Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and I did it. I gave it a dud. I hate this. Bartlett, you mentioned it being a burial of Savio Vega, but Razor's the one that took the pin, and that's what gave it the dud for me. That's bad.
Yeah.
Dave Meltzer, this is just shocking. I can't believe this, but see, he says probably the surprise match of the night, considering Ramon was in his first match back after missing 6 weeks with a rib injury, and Men on a Mission are usually awful. This was gutsy, but also logical booking, having one of the most over faces do a clean job to get the heel ready for his title shot. 2 3/4 stars.
Ugh.
What? 2 3/4. Almost a 3-star match.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we agree with Meltzer, and I could see where he's coming from, but then other times he fucking pulls shit like this, and I wonder, like, does he skip matches? Does he just not watch some of them, and he just phones some of it in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand, getting the heel ready for his title shot comment, but
yes.
But we know now that the Mabel thing is not working.
It never did.
has worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that has ever worked is that kids like to sing along with "Whoop, there it is." Period.
Yeah, agreed with that. Ugh, man, what a shitty way to go about things. Ugh. Well, moving along, was there some kind of a glitch? Did you guys know? It was almost like a commercial break.
Or, like, it sounded like it was more of a sound glitches.
Okay.
It almost sounded and looked like they were, like, going to a different venue.
Yeah.
During some of these.
Yeah. Well, immediately after the previous match, Todd Pettingzoo is on stage introducing the backup singers. And it should be noted that they are not the same backup singers from the music video.
Oh,
so
I
restraining
actually,
order against you with
yeah.
these ones.
I actually didn't notice that. That's what I told you you'd be excited during that first match to see them, and it wasn't the same ones.
That's why I wasn't excited.
Shame on me.
Different hair color in about another 20 years on these ones.
Well, what about Big Al? Do you like Big Al?
I did like Big Al.
Yeah.
Todd introduces the band and then starts scatting drum beats, getting the drummer to match him. My hatred of Todd Pettingzoo reached a peak that I never thought it could with this. As a matter of fact, I broke our usual rule about not talking about things beforehand. And back me up on this, I texted you guys at this point in my watch through saying, and I quote, "Holy shit, I want to murder Todd Pettingzoo."
And it was during this?
Yes.
I wasn't exactly sure what you were talking about, but I made an educated guess, and I picked that line as my opening line because I had a feeling it might have been it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thankfully, Doc Hendricks is backstage with some of the Lumberjacks to get us away from Pettingzoo. Rumor has it that the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase has bought one of Diesel's Lumberjacks, but Doc doesn't want to start any rumors. And of course it starts shit between these guys. Not interesting at all. This did not engage me. This was horrible. We finally got a string of words that could be called a promo out of Adam Bomb. And honestly, his wasn't as bad as the Smoking Guns and the promos that they put down here.
Well, we saw them playing Pogs, so we know we know how horrible they are.
It should be noted, though, that Bam Bam is going to set somebody on fire. So that's something to look forward to. We were wondering when he was going to use those wrist gimmicks of his, but back out on the stage, the Roadie is standing by for the live performance debut of Double J Jeff Jarrett, and here he comes to perform live. Double J cuts a promo while the band plays a live rendition of Jarrett's entrance music, and as expected, Double J nails the performance. After the band kicks in, everything's going. "Big Al on the guitar!" from Vince during the guitar solo. Also, whenever the band hits the instrumental break, "Whoa, we be rockin'!" from Vince. And that's it. The performance was uneventful. And Double J has solidified his position as being just all around great. It's not too soon to start advertising SummerSlam here, boys. It's going to be in Pittsburgh, PA this year. Thousands of advanced tickets already purchased.
I've got mine.
Yeah. Before we move it along, did you guys have anything that you wanted to say about the Double J performance? Ryan, why don't you take it first?
I mean, not much to really say outside of we all stated we haven't seen this pay-per-view, so I didn't know exactly what was going to happen during this song, but we do know where this storyline goes. And knowing that, he did a really good job lip-singing this part. I mean, you could tell if you really looked, but no more than you could in like a music video.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Double J did a pretty good job of pulling this lip-syncing off for this song.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely not easy to do, especially with a live band there. You know, and this guy's a fucking wrestler. He's not a performing singer. Yeah. So, I mean, he did a pretty good job. I mean, obviously you could tell he's lip syncing, but he did a good job at that. Todd with the drummer, it's one of the most insulting things I've ever seen to a musician. The drummer should have just fucking thrown his sticks at him. And Big Al, man, he can sure rip that Fender Telecaster a new asshole.
Well, with a name like Big Al, it's expected. No words from either of you on the promo debut of Adam Bomb. I'm surprised on that.
You know, I actually did note that I don't know if I like Doc Hendricks in a interviewer role. I don't know.
I really didn't like Doc Hendricks a little bit later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that the Double J performance is over, Petting Zoo is back in the audience. Now he's getting reactions from people. While we're there, the rustic sounds of a hog in the pen will take us into our next match. Bam Bam Bigelow defeats Henry O. Godwin by pinfall in 5 minutes and 33 seconds. They've toned down some of Bam Bam's entrance outfit, happy to say. Still can't get the pyro right, though. The timing is way off with it. Everything with the pyro was just shitting the bed for poor Bam Bam. Nothing can go right with this babyface run. Nothing goes right here.
Make it stop.
Yes. Did you guys notice it? He tried to do a gesture that looked like it should have been timed with the explosion of pyro, but nothing happened.
He's already dead.
Yeah.
Instead, he just winds up standing there, and about 5 seconds later, the pyro goes off.
Are these people backstage that control the pyro just fucking with him at this point?
Yeah. Everybody else is burying him. Let's bury him too.
Yeah.
So in the match here, I have to note just how much of a badass Henry Godwin looks. The dude is huge, and he looks like he could tear some shit up. He is built and carries himself and performs like a fucking wrestler. Say whatever we may want about the storyline and him with Corporation and just whatever. I am still a fan of Henry Godwin even after this match. That being said, all of a sudden this match is over. I can't get over how underwhelming this match was. So whenever I do these things, especially for the pay-per-views, I sit and I type as things happen. I had literally nothing noted about it except how much Godwin looks like a tough son of a bitch. And then the match was over. I didn't have this on my list of potential good matches, but I honestly expected a little more than what we got. This wasn't a dud, but the complete lack of anything exciting, despite having two great wrestlers in the ring, put this at a very solid 1 star for me. Joe, what were your thoughts on this?
My first thought is that Bam Bam he at least did not have those terrible shoulder flame things.
Yes.
So a slight improvement. He did the skipping thing, which I hate. I don't know what that is. It's weird.
It's his, hey, Big Daddy skip.
Oh my God.
I don't know. This match, I kind of agree with you, Bartlett. It kind of makes me wonder, knowing what happened before and what we're getting next, if maybe they were just short on time and had to make it quick, because they had to get the Jeff Jarrett performance in. And then we're getting a match for a title belt next. I don't know. I'm probably being generous because I like both of these guys. I'm giving it 2 stars because I didn't think there was anything terrible about it or really great about it.
Yeah, Bam Bam's entrance, they cut back on the backpack firework thing, but they replaced it with like a Kane-style flames that came up behind him. But yeah, the timing wasn't right on those either, so let's fuck with him a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, this match, it was kind of confusing. It started off not too bad. We had some just what you'd expect, some big guy slams being exchanged by each other. We get a quick commentary out of the King saying that Bill Clinton is Henry O. Godwin's favorite politician. And I loved Vince following it up saying, why? Just because they're both from Arkansas? And Lawler says, well, I'm just saying. Right there, just Vince says, that made no sense, you asshole. Slapped him down. I loved it. But this match, after that, Godwin goes into a headlock for a little while, and this match was way too short for a headlock. There was no time to be wasted, but there was a good amount of time wasted in the headlock. And the finisher was kind of stupid too. Godwin misses off the top row. Bam Bam just covers him for the 3 count. And I understand you get these quick counts sometimes, but it just didn't look like Godwin was phased that much for it to be the finisher. I thought this was a very lackluster match for a pay-per-view between 2 wrestlers that I know could put on a good show. And sadly, because of it being such a disappointing pay-per-view match, I gave it a dud.
Yeah, well, I can't argue with you on that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I went with the solid 1, but dud is a respectable rating for this. Nobody's going to blame you for that.
And I was looking forward to this match. So, yeah. Maybe that's why. Maybe I was disappointed,
Yeah. Joe, what'd Meltzer have to say about it?
Well, before I give the rating, I want to point out, you talked about Todd asking the fans about Double J singing. Did you hear the guy yell in the back, he stinks?
Yeah.
Meltzer gave this Bam Bam Bigelow versus Henry Godwin match 3/4 of a star. He said there was nothing wrong with the match, but it was kind of dead.
Yeah, I'd agree with him with that.
Once again, I will defer to Meltzer on this one. Yeah, that's not a bad rating. Well, Bob Backlund, guys, he's there. He's in the arena harassing children, and we thought we had gotten away from him. We did not. Thankfully, it is short. And standing by, we've got Todd Pettingzoo with Shawn Michaels. Shawn calls Double J Goldilocks. I enjoyed that quite a bit. And this was short. This was a very short interview because it goes right over to our next match. Shawn Michaels defeats Double J Jeff Jarrett with the Roadie by pinfall to win the Intercontinental Championship in 20 minutes and 1 second.
By God.
It's immediately clear that this match has the right kind of formula working from the get-go. The energy is here, it's the most it's been so far, and even I am feeling it 25 years later at home watching it. The tie-up and quick hits were perfect at the start. Within the first series, this is already shaping up to be an amazing match. The work here between these two lives up to the expectation. The storytelling and psychology on display here are phenomenal. Shawn Michaels doing the Double J strut was perfect. Double J stalling on the outside was some amazing heat from the crowd, but he didn't milk it too much, just the right amount of time. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but there was a kid at ringside with a sign that said Double J Jerk Jarrett.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It never ceases to amaze me how willing Shawn Michaels is to take some pretty rough bumps. There was a reversal where Michaels went over the top turnbuckle and flat on the outside. Painful to watch, but goddamn, the man is dedicated. The abdominal stretch was a little bit of a letdown until the ref got some no out of Double J. Those favorite lines. The spot where Vince McMahon loses his microphone was almost too much of a slowdown for me. It felt like it went on a little too long, but when it came back hard with another rough bump to the outside by Shawn Michaels. Double J declaring himself winner by countout was great. The drop kick from Double J onto Shawn Michaels after exchanging pins was tight as hell. The count on both competitors being down was just a little much for me also. I know everybody needs a breather, but it felt just a little bit long. But once again, it was what they needed because they both came back at 90 miles an hour. The ref gets taken out briefly. And just for the record, Earl Hebner's selling sucks. I've never seen a good sell from Earl Hebner. But thankfully, he's not important, or at least not a majorly important part of this. And the finish, with interference from the Roadie leading to the sweet chin music and the pinfall, was the perfect way to end this match. This match was everything that it promised to be. I know we were all looking forward to it, and in my opinion, everybody here performed at peak condition, and it showed throughout the match. At 20 minutes long, this is the kind of title match I love to see. It had its ups and downs, and a small handful of things that weren't my favorite, but that's very easy to get over because of how perfectly this all came together. I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars. I also want to throw it out there to you gentlemen that this might be the first solid match of the year candidate that I've seen so far in 1995. Ryan, what did you think about this?
Yeah, both guys, they started out having pretty elaborate entrances, which is completely fitting for a pay-per-view. And I loved at the beginning, Michaels grabs the championship belt and he does his cocky little using it as a mirror before he throws it aside. And like you said, you could just tell there was something about the feeling of this match just from the get-go. They get started and it's a little bit, they kind of take their time getting started. There's a couple exchanges. Then they play up to the crowd a little bit, but it's this slow burn that you're allowed in a 20-minute pay-per-view match, and it leads to something great. Towards the beginning of the match, there's this series where they do a choreographed chain of reversals with Double J and Shawn Michaels, and ultimately Michaels comes out the winner, but I mean, it's just great looking. The timing is perfect. And when Double J rolls out and starts mocking the crowd, he comes in, he does the 10 count a few times, does the strut for the crowd, hamming it up, just phenomenal work out of both of them. And the point where the first time Roadie tries to get involved, again with the timing, just two absolute professionals here. Roadie gets involved, and the way Shawn Michaels just catches him, pokes him, turns around at the right time, tosses Double J out of the ring. It's tough to ask for anything much better out of two guys here. Another spot that I think is even tougher to sell, Michaels is on the ground and Double J is kind of mounted on top of him and he goes to punch him. And Michaels quickly rolls out of the way right before Michaels punches him. And, it's tough to make this not look telegraphed, but the timing was just so perfect that it actually looked realistic. And I know you talked about Double J pulling out the old IRS special, the abdominal stretch, but when you're dealing with a 20-minute match, I don't mind it as much because you understand these guys need to actually take a breath. When you're talking about a 5-minute match, that gets annoying, but here it didn't bother me that much. Just the way that these guys went back and forth, it was really just something special to watch. The pace hardly let up except for a couple spots here and there, and this was a match worthy of a pay-per-view and worthy of a belt match. You already stated it. Yeah, this is probably going to be a match of the year candidate. I'm not sure it's a 5-star. That's pretty special. That's like that ladder match, but it is a solid fucking 4-star match.
Yeah, there's a lot going on before the match even starts that I wanted to mention. Roadie coming out, cutting that promo. I liked that. The live version of Double J's music playing for him coming out, I thought was great. Just part of the overall production of the show. I thought that was pretty good. There was a poster that I really liked that said, "Time for some chin music."
Yeah.
A lot of playing around at first. Double J mocking Shawn Michaels with laying on the ropes. I thought that was awesome. Shawn Michaels doing the strut. A lot of that good storytelling that we've seen in a lot of these Shawn Michaels matches recently. Double J doing the "I'm walking away from the match" gimmick again. He does it so well that I just don't get tired of it. And Shawn Michaels, I mean, this is prime Shawn Michaels in-ring matches during this time period. I think Shawn Michaels, like overall as a character, I think I liked him better like later on, like 97, 98. But man, his in-ring abilities here are just on display. And Bartlett, you mentioned him flying to the outside. It's probably, he's like 10 feet in the air, just landing on those mats that are like an inch thick,
Yep.
Immediately when I saw that, I said, it's still real to me, damn it. A couple of commentary notes. Vince's mic shuts off, it cuts off. And immediately when it comes back, we get a 1, 2, he got him. Oh, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
But Vince did give me a good one when Double J crotched himself on the ropes, and Vince said, well, Double J may be singing a little higher octave. But yeah, just really good back and forth match. Lots of near falls. It gave you everything you wanted in a good match. This probably should have been the main event of the show.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a title change. We haven't seen it with these, the top 2 belts in quite a few months. So it's nice to see a title change. I am also giving it 4 stars. I thought, it was worthy of 5. I think both guys gave us a lot. Probably Double J's best match yet. It just didn't give me any surprises. There wasn't really anything like surprising that made me want to go 5 stars. So I'm giving it 4. Do you guys know what happens after this? Are you aware?
Yes, I just recently learned of what goes on.
Well, I guess, what do you mean?
Well, with Double J and the Roadie, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of give some of the news here. I'll give news later, but Double J and the Roadie walked out on the promotion, like right after this match. They left the company. Rumors are that they did not agree with the creative that was happening. There's nothing for sure why they left. There's other rumors that Jerry Jarrett was now with WCW, but Jeff Jarrett never went to WCW during this time, so I don't know. But that Doc Hendricks interview, I'm sure, Bartlett, you're going to get to that.
Yeah.
But that was sort of an impromptu thing, because apparently what was supposed to happen was they were going to do a breakup. They were going to do a breakup backstage, but the 2 guys just walked out. They left the building. So it's unfortunate. We were going to get this big blow off with this story, and yeah, they just left. But back to the match, Dave Meltzer, he pretty much just gave a recap of the match, gushing and coming day and night, and he gave it 4.5 stars.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that's how things kind of end with Double J here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but we don't see Double J again until 97, 98?
No, we get a brief comeback at the end of 95.
Okay.
But it seems like it's very brief. I guess we'll get to see what happens later.
Yeah. I was quite dismayed to learn of that earlier today, doing just a little bit of forward research on things. I also just want to point out for everybody here, listeners especially, and it seems like you guys agree with me on this, I save 5 stars for an immaculate match. So as good as this was, there were enough little things to keep it from being a 5-star match. That being said, and Joe, you did not comment on this. I do want to hear your opinion. That being said, I feel that this is a match of the year candidate. Joe, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd love to watch it again.
Okay.
And yeah, I already told you I agree about match of the year, but
yeah.
I also agree with, 5-star is something really special. They're rare.
Yeah.
And it has to be in the Tokyo Dome.
Well, what is not the Tokyo Dome is the babyface dressing room. We're back there with Barry fucking Dudensky. Once again, he's a fish out of water in the celebration. And now, here's where we get Doc Hendricks. He's in a hallway off the locker room, freaking the fuck out. Apparently, there's a lover's spat between Double J and the Roadie now, but we don't have time to worry about that. First of all, because Joe just explained it for us, but also because we're moving it on to our next match. Owen Hart and Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji defeat the Allied Powers, Lex Luger and the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, by pinfall to retain the WWF Tag Team titles in 10 minutes and 54 seconds. Yoko has only walked to the ring and is already dripping from his neckbeard. I still don't understand the appeal of Yokozuna and Lex Luger in the ring. This was not doing it for me at all, and it was a rehash of a feud that sucked, and that is years old at this point, and nobody cares, kid. This was terrible. That aspect of it, excuse me. Yoko and Lex in the ring together are fucking terrible. And now we're gonna kill a little bit of time here in the match, arguing about Yoko sitting on Owen's foot accidentally. The best part of all of that was Cornette doing the negotiating and getting the two of them sorted out. Once Yoko is out of the ring, Owen is in, and Lex sticks to his formula. You can set your fucking watch to Lex Luger. Oh my god. Off the ropes to the hard camera, off the ropes to the right. Abdominal stretch, hip toss, one of the two. Thankfully, that doesn't last long. Owen and the Bulldog have great in-ring chemistry together. Something else I had to note here, the fast counts in this match were ridiculous. This fucking referee wanted to go home, and he wanted to go home fast.
Can you blame him?
Yeah, right. Then we get the enziguri from Owen to the Bulldog that the Bulldog sells the shit out of. That was poetry in motion. That was probably the highlight of this match. Honest question, throwing it out there to both of you guys. Is it possible to have a hot tag to Yokozuna, considering how long it takes him to get into the ring?
I believe not.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they tried it anyway, and it wasn't that hot because 30 seconds later, Yoko's finally crossing the ropes. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but he's still too fucking slow getting in and out of the ring to have a hot tag, I believe. Even Lex Luger and the British Bulldog, two of the strongest, most jacked up people in the WWF at this time, can't double team Yoko into a full extension back body drop. It feels like they should have maybe practiced that ahead of time and found out whether or not they could actually do it before trying it. We get the normal heel finish here, full of interference. The finish did nothing to make this match stand out. Ultimately, this match was a big nothing for me. As much as I love Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, Lex Luger and Yokozuna dragged this down. The lack of real build-up, the lack of heat, just all of this came together against the match. And I'll say it again here, the booking on this was just fucking lazy. All of that being said, silver linings, this didn't piss me off as much as it could have. So, I'm going with a solid 1 star on this. Joe, what did you think?
I have a confession to make, and it's that I completely forgot this match was on the card. And when Owen and Yoko made their entrance, like, I'm getting ready to type my notes, and I type in Owen and Yoko versus, I'm like, who the fuck are they wrestling? I don't even remember. That just shows you how much I was looking forward to this. The teasing of the breakup, okay. The only good thing about that is maybe Owen's going to go back to singles soon because...
Please.
Yeah, the only positive thing I have to say about this, and my rating will probably reflect the fact that I love Owen and the Bulldog, so them just giving us signs of what could be. I actually laughed out loud when Luger goes to throw Owen Hart towards Yokozuna, and Yokozuna just like casually walked over for Luger to be able to do that. It was just like, man, these guys just aren't even trying at all. So, but the match sucked, but I'm going to give it 2 stars just because I did enjoy when Owen and Davey were in the ring together.
We start the match off, and for some bizarre reason, we're going to start off with Yoko and Lex in the ring. Vince reminds us, of course, from 2 years ago about the hip toss aboard the aircraft, because everyone cared then. We still will care now. And then there's a spot that I think, after watching the whole match, is probably the best part of the whole match. And it's when Owen comes running in and he slaps Lex Luger and he runs behind the ref and like hides behind him. I thought that was hilarious. That was a very funny part and the best part of the match. It's tough to understand why you, Bartlett, were complaining about the booking, and that's completely valid because why? Nothing about this match was exciting except for Owen and the Bulldog. When we had those two guys in the ring, this looked like a pay-per-view match. But that, of course, couldn't last too long. Yokozuna comes in. He does his Vulcan nerve pinch. We had to get that in there. I'm usually kind of annoyed by Lawler's dog jokes, but there was one about Bulldog that I actually thought was kind of funny. When Bulldog was on all four legs and he's shaking his back leg as he tries to rally, and the King says, "Oh, he's looking for a hydrant." That one, it was kind of fitting, and it was actually kind of funny. So I'll give Lawler some props for that. Outside of Owen and the Bulldog, this was a very bad match. And I couldn't give it anything other than a 1 star.
Yeah. There's nothing else to be said really about that. Joe, what did Meltzer think about this?
Well, this is like the most confusing thing I've ever read, but it says, he says Luger didn't do a thing and Yoko is so limited by his weight that what he does looks great, but he can't do much. Does that make any sense?
No.
Not really.
Gives it 2.5 stars. I can't understand why. He didn't really write any reason why he gave it a generous 2.5.
All right.
You know, I said I enjoyed Owen and Davey in the ring. I gave it 2. He didn't really mention anything like that. So.
Yeah, he just said what he hated and then 2.5.
Yes.
Yeah, the time between Owen and Davey in the ring is the only reason it got a 1 star out of me.
Yeah, same here.
Guess what, guys? The Lumberjacks are coming out.
Woo!
And here we've got, once again, the complete video history of the Diesel Psycho Sid situation. Of course, with a voiceover by Todd Pettingzoo. We even got some bonus footage and a name drop of world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews. Thank goodness for that. Mm-hmm. I think with his name drop here on a pay-per-view, I think the bill is probably paid up now.
Do you think we can talk to him if we call 1-900-SHAMELESS?
International now, if you haven't noticed, in Canada and Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
He's option number 9, and he's available for consults, everybody. Let's take a look at that beef around the ring. There's a lot of attention being paid to the entrance of the Lumberjacks. Diesel cuts a fairly lame promo in the back before this match is going to get going. And then, I don't know what's happening, but all of a sudden, the Sprockets couple are at ringside again.
Yep.
What's up with that? The Undertaker isn't even in the building.
I have something to talk about that when I go.
Oh, okay, good.
So, just to give you a bit of a teaser.
Oh, well, we're going to need a teaser to get through this. Cue the Gallop of Roseanne. It's time for us to go into our main event. Diesel defeats Sid by pinfall in a lumberjack match to retain the WWF Championship in 10 minutes and 6 seconds. You heard me right, folks. 10 minutes and 6 seconds. We got more out of fucking Yokozuna than we did out of the main event WWF Championship match. I hope that doesn't spoil my opinion of this going forward for you. The match starts, and immediately the Lumberjacks are in play. Sid and Diesel are too much alike in their physique, their height, their weight, their wrestling ability. The times where they are actually wrestling in the ring look like some fucking mirror match from Smash Brothers or something. You know, there's zero chemistry here between them. Fucking zero. I absolutely hated Diesel going over the top rope to splash the Lumberjacks while Sid was laying in the ring. This wasn't the first time that this kind of stupid shit happens in this match. Instead of going to pin the guy laying on the mat, he does this gaga bullshit, and Diesel is huge. Like, this had me flashbacks to AEW with people lining up waiting to catch somebody and just I'm not going to dwell on that. It pissed me off too much. So, getting back to the match, despite the fact that in total you have 32 superstars here, there's nothing about this that felt special at all. I hated Sid high-fiving the Lumberjacks after the powerbomb instead of just fucking pinning Diesel. And then he acts surprised about the kick out. Like, I'm getting all pissed off all over again just fucking thinking about it. Even the pin, getting the 3 count off of the big boot? I thought this was a jackknife competition, or at least that's the way it's been played up, that these two monsters, they trade power bombs, but no, it's a simple big boot off of a rope rebound to get the 3 count. Fucking lame. I'm sure it's no secret now, this match did not work for me, brother.
Really?
It was too much in every way possible, except the one thing that matters. It was not enough to highlight anything about anybody here. There was nothing special about this. Nobody got over with this any more than they were before. There's been no progress made. Ordinarily, I don't mind lumberjack matches, but the gimmick in the context of this match was shit. And I strongly suspect that it was put there because of what I mentioned earlier. Diesel and Sid have no charisma in the ring at all, and they had the thought that maybe 30 other fucking superstars can carry the lack of charisma for this. Well, guess what? It didn't fucking work. For these reasons, I'm giving the main event championship match a dud fucking rating yet again. And it pisses me off to no end that I have to give the main event championship match a fucking dud rating. This is why I drink. Ryan, what did you think of our main event here?
This will kind of tell you of what I think about the main event. So you brought up the Undertaker Sprocket fans at ringside, right?
Yes.
So get this tidbit of information as I was digging around on the interwebs about this match. So the Undertaker does wrestle tonight in a dark match against Kama, where he defeats him in a casket match. Why the fuck is that not on this pay-per-view?
Something happened. I don't know why, but there were 2 matches at the end of the show. That and a Bret Hart match.
Yeah, a Bret Hart match versus Hakushi, I believe.
I can't remember. Maybe.
No, Jean-Pierre Lafette.
Yes.
Which would have been great, probably. Those are 2 good wrestlers.
The other dark match was Skip and Aldo Montoya.
That was before. And then the last match of the night that the fans saw was Undertaker versus Kama in a casket match. And we didn't see it.
Yeah.
Unfucking believable. This is the garbage that we got to see. I mean, I don't have much to talk about, Bartlett. You know, you went over this. The fact that Diesel and Sid multiple times had the win. They had the 3 count in their grasp, but instead they turned to the Lumberjacks and either launch themselves or high five or do whatever stupid ass bullshit because they can't wrestle. If we went back and added up the amount of actually wrestling in this 10 minutes, it was probably a minute 30, maybe.
Yeah.
This was just very boring. And, you know, Sid, the worst part about Sid is his selling. And Vince, there's a spot where, like, Diesel takes over, and it's clear to me how bad of a seller Sid is. And Vince follows it up with Sid can't give it as good as he could dish it out. And I know it's not how Vince meant it, but the way I took it in my head was, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
This was just a lot of wasting time, a lot of bullshit, and I have to say I completely understand why this is the first pay-per-view ever lumberjack match, because it was shit. Absolute dud from me. The only thing I'll give it is this maybe technically Diesel's first clean victory. Because, well, I mean, there's a little bit of the Lumberjacks beating up on Sid, but then Sid comes in, he kind of rallies and attacks Diesel before Diesel then reverses for the big boot. So I think technically it's his first clean victory.
Yeah.
But fuck, what a dud.
Well, I'm going to fast forward and say I gave it a dud. Okay. But one thing you guys did not mention, this match served two purposes. One of them was for the Lumberjacks to distract us from the terrible wrestling.
Or lack thereof.
Yes. And the other is to set up this miserable feud between Mabel and Diesel. And for those reasons, I gave it a dud. Dave Meltzer, he says, this would have been a negative star match if not for the Lumberjacks. Sid somehow gets worse every time you see him. And Diesel did not look any good either. But he's not exactly the caliber of a performer who can carry someone that bad. Half a star.
You know, I remember back at the debut of Psycho Sid in this run, we were all so excited.
Oh, yeah.
And things were going great. But then the bell rang.
1995 hit us.
Well, that and just the fact that they, when they did the Sid and Shawn Michaels breakup real quick, that was the end of it.
Yeah.
That was the end of the excitement for Sid.
Yeah. Yep. Well, unfortunately, we didn't get any good finisher, like Ryan said here. This was the end. At the end of this match, we faded to black and the pay-per-view was over. That's it. In Your House 2 is done.
Cheap.
Oh my, cheap. Let's talk about our overall thoughts and ratings on this pay-per-view. Joe, why don't you take this first?
I think that the pay-per-view overall was good. It was a vast improvement from King of the Ring, the previous pay-per-view. The main event was awful. It's just, Sid is not a main event guy. But overall, I think it was a pretty solid pay-per-view. I liked the production. I liked all the Double J stuff. It's disappointing that they walked out because this was, this storyline was really starting to peak. So overall, I thought it was a good pay-per-view.
Yeah, same here. I mean, there were definitely some lowlights. This final match was garbage. The tag team match was not very good, but we also had some really fantastic matches. The IC championship match between Shawn Michaels and Double J are, like we said, match of the year candidate. Just exciting stuff out of that match. And so was the first match, the Road Dogg versus 1-2-3 Kid.
The two guys that walked out.
Yeah, the two guys that walked out. Yeah. And that's, what I kind of have as the final thing here. It's so sad that they walk out because this was such a perfect storyline. The burn on it was perfect. It was months long. I am into and interested in this storyline. So the fact that they walk out is just so sad.
Yeah, agreed. And just in general, I agree with you guys. This pay-per-view was miles ahead of King of the Ring. And even though it did have its low points, the high points were very high for me. So yeah, overall, loved it. And take heart, Ryan, because we do get back to this storyline eventually. We get a little bit of a break in time, and then we get back on track as best we can. And we get to things, so it's not the way that it was originally meant to be, but we do get some amount of payoff as far as this story goes in the end.
It's hard to understand what they disagreed with, though, because to me, this was a great storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really weird, too, because, the interference in the match was, it was strange because it happened, and then you saw the Roadie pull Double J out. It's almost like he did the interference and then he grabbed Jarrett and was like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I mentioned earlier that I was doing some learning about this, and to cite my source, this was the Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard episode on In Your House 2 that I was listening to earlier. And Pritchard states in that the original angle was they were supposed to have an argument there in the ring after the match, but Jarrett called for the Roadie to pull him out and carry him back, and they just kept on heading out the door as they left.
Yeah.
To this day, according to Pritchard in that episode, to this day, there is still not a clear reason as to why this happened.
Yeah.
It becomes a he said, she said kind of thing.
I mean, I understand you lost the belt, but man, you lost it in one hell of a match.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think losing a belt would be enough for somebody that is a professional like Jeff Jarrett to walk out on, because I would think that Jeff would know how the business works and that, yes, you sometimes have to lose a belt. Like, I can't see that being the reason, you know?
Whatever the reason, disappointing.
I mean, for Christ's sakes, he got a premium payment on losing the belt to China later on. So,
yeah.
You know, he knows how to work things, and I can't see... The bigger travesty here for me is that the Road Dogg walked out with him. They were friends. The Road Dogg trusted Jarrett and Jarrett's opinions, and for whatever reason, whatever made Jeff Jarrett think that it was a good idea to walk out, the Roadie just trusted him and followed him, which, goddamn, like, I know he comes back and saves things, but if we don't know the future, at this point, it's fucking career suicide. As green as he is to walk out on a pay-per-view. Ugh, man. I'm very happy that things worked out in the end, but just mind-boggling that was the decision made. Well, before we finish it up here, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around July 23rd, 1995 for us?
Yeah, just to give you guys the breakdown of the pay-per-view. So yeah. I guess people were just excited that this was a better show than the King of the Ring. We have an 88.7% thumbs up for this show.
Good. Yeah.
4.4% thumbs down, 6.9 in the middle. That does not add up to 100%, so I don't know what the fuck they were doing, but whatever. Best match, no surprise, was Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Jarrett. It wasn't even close. The second best match was 1-2-3 Kid versus the Roadie. The worst match, can you guys wager a guess on that one?
The final.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm going to go with the tag match as the worst.
The main event was voted the second worst. The worst match voted was Bam Bam Bigelow versus Henry Godwin.
Man, yeah. I forgot about it already.
Yeah.
I completely forgot it. We just fucking talked about it less than 45 minutes ago, and I completely forgot about it already.
That's the worst part about it. It is a very forgettable match.
Yeah.
As far as Dave Meltzer's overall comments on the show, he says the show was an easy thumbs up, but he was also a little surprised at the reader response. He thinks that the 95 Royal Rumble was a better show. He noted that Shawn Michaels versus Jeff Jarrett was the best worked match on a pay-per-view this year. And I think I have to agree with him on that.
Yeah. Yep.
He also feels the only negative to the show was the announcing. He feels as though Doc Hendricks was superior as a color commentator compared to Jerry Lawler for this particular show. So
debatable.
Yeah.
Debatable.
Those were pretty much all of his comments there. I don't really have any other news right now after already reviewing the Double J and Roadie story.
I just want to throw it out to you guys and to our listeners, we've talked in private and on the podcast here a couple times about the fact that we hadn't really had a strong match of the year candidate until this pay-per-view. And I'm pretty confident that you guys are going to agree with me here. But for our listeners, the way that I think of it is, what matches am I going to remember by the time we get to December 31st, 1995? And up until July 23rd, 1995, every single match of the past 7 months has been almost forgettable. There's been a couple standouts that I'm like, oh yeah, that match was good. But I feel like I'm pretty confident whenever I say that whenever we get to December 31st, 1995, this is definitely a match I am going to remember as being a solid match of the year candidate. This is what I look for when I look for match of the year candidates. Do you guys agree with that?
Oh yeah, this one will be there for sure.
I agree. There was a match in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania between Michaels and British Bulldog that was good, that I wouldn't mind taking another look at.
Yeah, and we can absolutely do that. I don't have anything against that at all, because that, just talking about it reminds me of it. But that, you know what, that's the thing, is like I had already forgotten about it. And I don't mean that as a negative critique of anybody. It's just I have a hard time imagining that I'll be forgetting this match, is all I'm saying, I guess. Well, that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on July 24th, 1995, with matches featuring Rick Stockhauser, Hakushi, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.